What is going on, guys? We are back. We're working on the Eclipse today. We got in our front bumper. This is the Blitz style replica. It's from KBD, and this one is polyurethane. We had one in the past, but we didn't like it because it was fiberglass. It did not fit well. So we got the polyurethane. So far it's fitting actually like spot on, like perfect. What we're gonna do is actually drill out right here. There are some holes down here where the original bumper would mount, and then just put a nut on the top. But instead of leaving a nut on the top, you'll see what we do later. And then the last part of mounting it is this area right here. So it's already reinforced with this metal, fortunately. And this is just gonna sit right on top. So we're just gonna make a template, drill out these, and then put bolts right behind it. We'll put up the specs and tell you all that later. But that's pretty much all there is on installing it. It shouldn't be that hard. Another thing we're gonna do is put this like chicken wire mesh behind it. It'll make it look more completed, and it'll go with the side skirts and the back vents of the wide body flares in the back. So it'll look more complete and more like early 2000s build. So we picked up this at Home Depot. I think it was $28, but it's a lot of it. So what we're gonna do is paint it black so it's more subtle, and then just use some epoxy, some clips back there so it'll sit. And they actually have places for clips on this bumper. So right here, here, all the corners. So they want you to do that, so we're just gonna epoxy it to make sure it sticks. That's pretty much it. There's not really anything to it, so let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna be doing is measuring these cutouts right here, and then transfer all of our measurements to this mesh and then cut it out. So we're gonna use these sheet metal pliers right here. They're gonna do just fine. So let's measure. Okay, so we just got done painting the grills. So what we're gonna have to do now is let the epoxy set and use these clips. So as you can see, we are using picture frame clips. We got these at Home Depot. This is not the way you should do it. This is the way we are doing it, but we couldn't find any of those adhesive strips or clips online. They were really hard to find. Maybe we found like one or two, but they were like, you gotta buy them in bulk. So if you guys find them, that would be great. Sometimes they send them, sometimes they don't, but this bumper didn't have a grill with it, so there's no reason to send them. So it was kind of hard for us to find them, so we're using these. They are like thicker metal, so they are hard to bend, but we used 2 pairs of pliers and it bent no problem. So we're just gonna use epoxy, so then we get a nice coat on the top and bottom so it stays there. It'll definitely work, it'll be fine. All you got to do is use the 2 pliers and bend it over after you put the epoxy in. So we just bent one of them so we can get the metal a little softer, and then it just will bend right over. So that's what we're doing. It'll be pretty easy. These clips were, I think, $7 at Home Depot, and we got 40 of them. So it's definitely gonna work and shouldn't be that hard. So we just finished the epoxy. Everything is looking really good. It's gonna be interesting to see how hard this gets tomorrow and how easy it'll be to bend these clips. So our plan of attack was to use double-sided tape. This is Scotch. It doesn't stick that well, but it worked for this application. So what we did is we cut a little piece of Scotch tape. We put it under these clips to hold it into place, and then we epoxied over it. So it's pretty simple. Now we're gonna have to epoxy these side ones. We decided against these ones. We thought these wouldn't look that good with the mesh in it, and we're gonna do the side and then that big one in the front. That goes along with the side vents in our side skirt and the rear flares, so it ties it in really well. That's why I kind of like this look of this bumper, and I like the Fast and the Furious look. That's what we're going with. The grills are already drying. Everything was easy with the epoxy, so we're gonna have to mix up more epoxy and then just put the clips on the side. We're just doing 4 on the side and 6 for the main one. Okay, we just finished up doing the epoxy. It says to let it cure for 24 hours. The only problem we had was right here where the double-sided tape failed us. That's the only problem we had. Okay, so we're back. It's been 4 days because we've been working on other projects, but we just let the epoxy cure in the sunlight. It actually opened up the bumper too, so it made it a little better. We still got some places we can improve on, but it'll settle, and it's got the majority of the shape right now, so we can mount it. But what we're gonna do is put on these grills, and we're gonna show you if it is easy or not to bend these, and we'll give you some tips after we do it. Okay, we just got all the grills on, and at first I was skeptical, but now I actually feel really good about it. So you can see when we first laid down the epoxy, we got some runs, and it was kind of sloppy because, you know, it was at an angle, so it was hard. But now everything's like really solid. So, I mean, they're not gonna go anywhere. I'm confident about that. The clips were hard to bend, so we used these needle nose pliers. They actually really helped, and they were like the perfect size. Sometimes I clipped between a couple of these and I just bent them all down like that to grab one of these clips and just bend it. So, I mean, everything was great. I had no problems with it, honestly. So, I don't know, if you guys aren't the DIY type, it might be a little more difficult, but this was pretty easy, I would say. You just gotta be patient and let all the epoxy dry. It still looks wet, but it is dry. Sometimes I was scared because I heard some cracking, but it's because I overlaid the epoxy where it bends just a little bit, and then that cracked off. but it didn't ruin the integrity of the epoxy. Now we're gonna finish the install of the bumper. First, we're gonna drill out these and then do the side ones. Okay, so there's 5 holes right here. So what we're gonna do is put up the bumper and then just draw it back just a little and see where everything lines up. So we wanna make sure everything is lined up, like even the corners of the headlights. So you wanna have a good fitment first off and then draw it back. And then what you're gonna do is just mark it with a pencil and then find a drill bit that's, I would say, that goes inside that diameter right there. Find a drill bit that goes inside there, and then we're just gonna use that to drill down. So what we're gonna do for the side here is we're gonna be using these speed nuts, sometimes they're called. From Dorman, they're called U-type clip nuts, whatever. But the idea is you slide it onto the body and then it holds the bolt. It acts like a nut, like a welded nut. So it's gonna be holding it. So this one actually came in M6 and M8. These bolts that we use are M6 by 1.0. These are just leftover bolts from the S13. So typically any S chassis has these and they're fitting this just fine. So it's pretty common. So this had 2 though, so look out for that because the M8 is way bigger. And I looked at the other packages and there was only M8 in them, even though they advertised M6. So what we're gonna do is slide this on and then just drill a hole because one of the bolts are like rusted in there. And I guess a previous owner, somebody that took off the bumper before, like cut it off. So we're just gonna have to drill a new hole. And then there is one on this side next to the headlight that already has a welded nut up there. So that's gonna be pretty easy, but our template is gonna be using the one with the welded nut. It should be factory. And then just one of these over here in the middle, and then one closer to the edge over here. So what we're gonna do is use a paint marker, just go in the middle, tap it so we know where it is, and then slide these back off, and then just drill them out, put them back on, and then screw the bolt in place. So it should be pretty easy. We'll let you know how it goes. So we're gonna do this without a template. What we're gonna do is just put it up to it and then just mark it. We're gonna eyeball it more so. If you wanna see how to use a template, we got many other videos on YouTube where we go and actually mount stuff. We got one for the Z, doing the Nismo wing. We did it for the side skirts. We did it for the Dart hood scoop. So there's many videos on doing it, but we're gonna do this real quick. This will be actually pretty close. And since we can bend this, it's not that big of a deal. Since it's polyurethane and it's not fiberglass or something that's like needs to be exact. We're gonna do the best we can and it'll turn out great. Okay, so this is how it is fitting. We're gonna have to take it off a couple times because we're gonna be painting, and I think we can get a jack under it, so I'm not sure if we're gonna have to take it off to get the jack under it. But if it's like a tow truck or something, we need it on a tow. It is polyurethane, so it will flex. So I'm not really worried about that. And everything is held in that it would be pretty stable. I don't think anything would really get ruined. One thing we did change for the sides here is we used a 25 mil in the back, and then they only had one pack of 25 mils, so a pack comes in two. So we put the two 25s on the back and then the 20 mils on the front. The gold ones that we were using were 16 millimeter, and they were just not that long, especially with the bumper and then the metal and then having to go through the metal to the clip. So it was a lot. The 20 probably is like the perfect range. They did work on these though. That was like a good size. You don't need them that long. So we just used the gold up front and then 20 here and 25 in the back. So that is how it's looking. I think the grills really make it finished. When we paint the bumper, of course, we're gonna have to take off the grills or mask them, and then we're gonna paint those gold clips behind it. But that's what it looks like with the gold clips. That's how much you can see. So everything is filling in really nicely. And I think it does look better with no grill there, but let me know what you guys think down below. I'd like to hear your opinion. Once we get the car out on the road, we'll see more like if we like it or not like that. So we can always just pull off the bumper and get some epoxy and do that. So that's pretty simple. Now our next video will be working on the body kit. I know it's been kind of delayed and we're getting there. We're gonna work on the kit and that's gonna be our priority. Our next video that we're doing is installing this Nismo wing. So that's just a part 2. We're showing you what bolts we used and then how to wire up this third brake light. We've been getting so many comments on that, and now's the time after paint. So we're doing probably that video first and then probably this one next. I can't say for sure because we got a lot of videos lined up and we already filmed some. I know you guys want to see the Eclipse. It's getting a lot of views. So see you guys next time.